Welcome to Garden of Lights. I'm Susan Howington, Family Consumer Science Agent with the Henry County Cooperative Extension, partnership with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Today we're going to talk about spinach, and we're also going to hear from Frank Hancock, our Agriculture and Natural Resource Agent, and he's going to talk about how to prune an apple tree. So we'll see you back in just a little bit on Garden of Lights. Welcome back to Garden of Lights. Today we're talking about spinach, and you know, spinach is one of my favorite vegetables to eat. Now we're even buying it just about every week, and we're putting it on something during the week, so why not cook with it on the show today? So spinach is really good for us. It is fat-free, saturated fat-free, cholesterol-free. It is loaded with vitamin A, C, and K, and it is going to give you a lot of good iron. And we think about Popeye the Sailor Man, about that good iron and building those muscles. It's going to give you great calcium, especially if you're looking for ways to get that calcium into your body. And it's also going to give you great potassium. And this is a huge pile of spinach right here. But just think, if I took a good cup of this, it's only going to equal to about 7 calories. So you could eat a lot of spinach and really keep your calories down. Now let's talk about selection. Selection, you want to look for green, crisp. You don't want any wilt. If you buy at the store, you know, you're still going to look at it in the bags too, because you want to look at the date. You want to make sure you don't see any wilt. You want to make sure that date is going to be prolonged for the time that you're going to be using it also. So look for those when you're looking for that selection. And then when it comes to that storage, the good thing is spinach will store in your refrigerator for about 3 to 5 days. So hopefully in those 3 to 5 days, you know exactly what you're going to be cooking that spinach with. So when we come back, we're going to hear from Frank Hancock, our Agriculture and Natural Resource Agent, and he's going to be talking about pruning an apple tree. So we'll see you back in just a little bit.
Okay, today we're up here in the garden. I've got Bob Westerfield with us from the University of Georgia. Bob's a horticulturist down here in Griffin. And we're going to look at these apple trees. We've got some apple trees up here that they weren't pruned like they should have been when we started off, and so they've kind of overgrown, and we're going to do our best at fixing them and telling you a little bit about how to go about pruning apple trees and take care of them. I want to let Bob tell us a little bit about what you would do, Bob, if you got a new apple tree and you're starting it off. And I guess we won't get too much in. The University of Georgia's got a good brochure about growing apple trees, and it's going to tell you varieties that do well here and don't do well here. And what we're looking for is fire blight resistant and scab resistance, and that's a primary thing when you're selecting an apple tree. So just because something at the store's got a label on it that says apples doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get any apples out of it if it's not the right variety. So Bob, tell us a little bit about how you go about starting an apple tree.
Well, glad to, Frank. First of all, you mentioned the varieties. It's important to remember that apple trees are not self-fertile, which means if you're going to get an apple tree, you got to get at least 2 apple trees of a different variety. And by that, what we mean is a pollinating variety. It's 2 different varieties of apples that are going to be blooming at the same time, and they'll actually cross-pollinate, and you'll get a more successful fruit with that. You know, we're going to talk about pruning today, and some of the trees we're going to be looking at today have gone a long time without proper pruning. That's a situation you really don't want to be in. The time to start pruning is the minute after you buy that apple tree and you get it home, hopefully in the fall, late winter like we are now. That's the time to start pruning. So you may have, and I've just got a branch here, but we'll use it as an example. Your apple tree may come in a 1-gallon container, or maybe it's a bare root, but it may look something like this. And you're saying, yeah, we got a little branch structure already. We're good to go. But no, actually what you're going to do to this thing, you want to control those branches from day one. And that's kind of what's absent on the trees we're going to look at here. So I've got my little pruners right here. Right after I got that tree in the ground, plant it correctly, I'm going to actually come in here and cut out every limb that there is, believe it or not. And you're thinking, gosh, she's really hammering that thing. But no, it's because I want to control the growth. And then what I'm going to do is come down and take about 1/3 of the growth back. And I always want to prune by a bud, and a bud's wherever we had a stem or a growing point. And I'm going to cut just above that. Okay, so I took 1/3 of it out. And you're like, God, you don't have a whole lot left there. But this is me controlling the growth and the direction I want this tree to go in the future, and that's very important. So you should basically start off with essentially, looks like a pool cue or a stick. That's what you're going to have the first year. Soon as spring comes on, it starts to flush out, you're going to get advantageous growth, and it's going to start to form branches. The following year, you know, you may have something that kind of looks like this. We're getting shoots going every direction. We've got a lot of those buds have now popped out. Now I'm going to really steer the direction of the way this thing goes. The ideal way to describe this is every time you come up to a different level, you should have one branch. So here's a level, and here's a level, here's a level. So what we'd like to do is we may have multiple branches here, want to snip them all off till I have one branch. The lower branches are always going to be a little bit longer than the top branches. So ideally, an apple tree or a pear tree should be shaped like a Christmas tree. It's going to have a conical form, okay? It's going to be cone-shaped. So I might come back here and nip this one back just a little bit. All right. Then I look in here. If I have any branches in here, I'm going to take them off. I come to this next branch, okay? And I'm going to take it back a little bit less. Come back to a bud, okay? Then I look for the next branch with this, which is this one. I'm going to take it back a little shorter. And this is really a good little example. When I get to the top, and you can notice it looks like we've got 2 central leaders here, I really want one dominant or central leader. So I've got 2 growing right here. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one as my central leader. So I'm going to nip this back a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this back so that I don't have that double central leader, double dominance, okay? And so this is, believe it or not, the second year pruning, if you can use your imagination, about what it should look like. Why are we doing this? We're trying to create airflow and sunlight to come in there to help us with disease issues, to form up more fruit, and essentially we're going to have a healthier plant by doing that.
Okay. All right. And apple trees are grafted, and so if you've got an apple tree and you start getting some growth coming up from around it on the ground there, those are not the apple tree that you bought. Those are coming up from the rootstock, and you want to eliminate all that. You don't want any of that to go become your main branch on your apple tree, because you won't have what you think you bought. And we'll look at some of that here in a little bit.
And that's a great point if I can make that. You're talking about apple trees are grafted, and for those who are maybe not familiar with that term, you basically have 2 trees. You have the bottom part called the rootstock, and that controls the general shape and growth habit of the tree. The top part is called the scion, and it basically is what's going to be the fruiting part or the desirable part. Why is that important? You want to make sure you get the proper rootstock for your tree. They can come in versions of dwarf, semi-dwarf, or standard, and a few things in between. And what does that do? That controls the height of it. If you have a small area in the yard, you're probably going to be looking for a dwarf rootstock variety. If you've got a little bit more room, possibly like these, semi-dwarf. Commercial orchards might go with a standard, which is going to produce a large apple tree, pear tree, whatever you happen to be buying. So how do you know what type rootstock you have? The best way to buy a fruit tree is to go to a place that specializes in them. And we have a few orchards around the state of Georgia where you can do that. That way you know what you're getting.
Okay. So what we're going to do here for the next few minutes is we're going to take a look at this tree over here and point out some things that need to be removed. And like Bob said, this one is not one that we can make into a stair step because it wasn't started off that way. So we'll do the best we can. And as we look at these trees, there's a lot of branches here. There's no airflow coming through these trees. They are, you know, the leaves are off of them now, and they are, I can't even see through them. They got so many branches on them. So some of that's going to get removed. Going to be looking for branches that are interfering with each other, that are actually damaging each other because they're rubbing together, and those kind of things that we'll do. So we're going to move over here a little closer to this tree.
And Frank, what I'm thinking, it might be a great time, you know, to talk about some of the equipment.
That's right.
Let's
talk about some of that.
Maybe talk a little about the safety stuff.
Several things that we've got here. One is we have a chainsaw. And the chainsaw, of course, can be used on some of these bigger branches we're going to have to remove. Now, when you're operating a chainsaw, you need to have your safety equipment. You need to have a helmet, chaps. The chainsaw get up against your leg, it'll hurt you, and these chaps are designed
some good leather gloves, too, probably to go along with that.
Leather gloves, which I've got. And so this is what you want to do. You don't want to be getting up on the top of a ladder with the chainsaw. You know, you can get a pole saw or something else. So you just don't want to do that. You got to be safe, because chainsaws will hurt you. Another tool that we use, and this particular tool is called an alligator. It's made by Black & Decker, and it has a shield around a chainsaw blade. And so the way this works is you grip the branch and it holds onto it, and it has a chain that does the cutting. And this tool is a little more forgiving as far as getting it up against you. So, and it's electric, so, you know, a couple of batteries will keep you going through the whole operation. And so that's another tool that we use. We also have hand saws that can be used to prune some of your branches off. And sharp tools are important. This saw right here's got a fairly new blade in it, and so we're making sure they're going to cut. You can wear yourself out trying to cut a branch off with a dull blade. Then loppers, you get them several different sizes. They need to be sharp, and this is what you'll use for most of your medium-sized branches. So you get the big ones with the chainsaw or the alligator here, and you get the smaller branches with the loppers. It also lets you reach up a little higher into the tree, and then you come with some pruning shears like Bob has got right here. All right, well, let's take a quick look at our tree here and sort of point out some of the things that we're trying to eliminate.
That sounds good.
And so we're going to move right over here where the tree is. The one thing you'll notice on this tree, we talked about suckers, and it has some down here that need to be removed. And so we'll take care of that in a few minutes. And I'm going to let Bob tell you what he's going to take out of here, and some of it we won't know till we get started and see how things look, because this tree is too cluttered here with leaves. It's not going to have any airflow, and we're going to have fungus problems and all sorts of things going on. And so I'll let Bob point out here the branches we're going to start to take out, and then we're going to prune it. So
okay. Well, you had mentioned, you know, right off the start, we've got a little bit of lower growth right here. It may or may not be coming out of the rootstock, which is right out of the bottom, but we certainly don't want any of this lower growth on this tree, so we could take that out. When you do make a cut, particularly when it's going to be off one of the main trunks, make sure you cut it just outside what we call the branch collar. If you notice right here, somebody had cut it and left a stub. That's not a very healthy cut right there. It should have been brought in a little bit closer to where we get a better healing.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
But it would be kind of dramatic from what it looked like to now, won't it?
Welcome back to Garden Delights. Today we're making tacos and we're using our spinach to make those spinach tacos. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut my eye on, and you do want the eye on about a little bit of high heat, so I'm going to go ahead and crank it up a little bit just to get it to where I need it. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is add about a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. So I'm going to go ahead and add it because I will tell you this will heat up pretty quick. So we add that, and that's going to be for my stir fry. So I'm going to go ahead and add, these are our mushrooms that we're going to be adding to the tacos, and so this is about 12 ounces of mushrooms, and I'm going to go ahead and add those first, and it won't take long for that to heat up. And the next thing I'm going to add, and this is a medium onion, and I'm going to go ahead and add it to the mushrooms, and by the time this all heats up, it'll stir fry pretty quick. And this is smelling already good. And if you like onions, you'll know what I mean as far as smelling good. And then you're going to add 1 to 2 cloves of garlic, and you're going to mince those. So I'm going to go ahead and add these 3 ingredients, and that's going to be my first things that I'm going to add to the tacos that I'm going to be making. And I can already hear it sizzling. So I'm going to put this over to here, and I'm just going to kind of work this around. I'm going to actually up this just a little bit because I do want to cook. And these are pretty large mushrooms, so if you want to, you can even take your spoon and kind of divide them in halves, or you can leave them whole. It's however you want to do it. And this is going to be a meatless taco with spinach. So if you're looking for ways to get healthier, this is one way to not feel like you've got to eat meat on everything. So I'm just going to keep working this around, and I'm going to kind of take just a little bit of these mushrooms and kind of divide them in half. These are nice mushrooms, though they're very firm, which is good because I know they're fresh. And you can see I didn't add a whole lot of olive oil. So you know when you're cooking with mushrooms, they're going to release some liquid also. So that's the good thing about mushrooms. You're going to have some water that's going to release from them. So I'm just going to keep moving this around. Every once in a while when I see a large mushroom, I'm going to kind of divide it in half. And the onions, I sliced up in a dice style, but if you wanted to, you could have sliced the onions more in a long slice. But I just like to do it this way, so it really depends on your likes as far as how you want to put them on your tacos. Just going to let it cook a little bit more because it won't take long. If you've ever cooked spinach, you know that a lot of spinach will cook down and you feel like, now where did all of it go? Because it just shrinks up really fast. So you do want a lot of spinach. And so in the recipe, it's going to tell you about 20 ounces of spinach. And as you'll see, once I add it to this dish, it is going to shrink down a lot, which is good because it'll fit on the tacos really nicely. And you can notice also, when I started, it was really plumped up, and now it's kind of cooking down. The same thing's going to happen when I put that spinach on too. It's going to come down also. So I'm going to let it go just a little bit longer. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of spinach on. I'm going to keep adding the spinach until I get all this on here because this will make about 6 to 8 to 10, depending on how much you want to put on your tacos. I'm going to also add a little sea salt, a little pepper, and just a little squeeze, about 1/4 of a teaspoon, depending on how much you want of lemon also. So we're going to add that to that. And you can see I have this on pretty high, and it is really releasing all that good liquid. And you can see it's not burning, and that's what I want. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to kind of lay my lid here, is I'm going to start adding a little bit of the spinach. and I'm going to try my best not to make too much of a mess. So what I'm going to do is just kind of add some. And really I want to try to add every bit of this. So I'm going to put some on top. And I'm going to add my lid just for a little bit, just to let it wilt with the heat from that coming up from the skillet. So we're going to do that just for a little bit. And I'm going to keep adding because you'll be amazed on how much it's going to shrink down. And you know, spinach, one thing good about spinach is you can eat it raw just as it is, or you can cook it. And it's kind of like cooking with your turnip greens or your collards is what you're kind of doing with the spinach when you're cooking down. So as you can see, what I want to do now is just take a little bit of the spinach, move it around into the mushrooms and onions and the garlic. And as you can see, what happened to my pile, because it's almost gone again. So I'm going to add a little bit more. And you know, I have been eating spinach a good bit during the weeks too, when I'll think of something I'm going to eat, and then I'll just take it and put it on top, and then I'll just put it in the microwave and heat it up just a little bit so I can eat it. And it's amazing how fast it just goes down. And I feel like I'm getting like 2 cups of spinach, but by the time I eat it, it's really low. So I feel like I need to add even more to it. And I know I'm not eating a lot of calories because, like I said, spinach, just a cup of spinach, and if I just grab like a good handful, that's about a cup, and that's only 7 calories. So that's a really good thing. So I'm going to see where I am on how fast this is going to wilt down. And it's already started, so I'm just kind of stir it around a little bit. And you know that the good thing about spinach is you can buy smaller bags. You can even grow it if you want to. I will tell you on the recipe, it will tell you, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but you do want to take the stems off the spinach because it does make it a nicer taco and you're not feel like you're eating stems. But at home, I will tell you, I don't take my stems off. I leave them on when I'm cooking. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. Oops, I'm about to lose my top. And I may be able to get all this in this one cooking for this time. And I think I will. Okay, I'm going to cook this down just a little bit. I'm going to take what little I have that's fallen off, and I'm going to push this down. And just imagine, I have this pile of spinach in this bowl, and now it's down to here. So that's the reason why I say when you're cooking, cook more than you think you're going to need, because you want it to last longer so you can enjoy it also if you're making tacos. And they're great to eat the next day too. So if you are looking for something to do the next day, as far as eating, you can always save them for the next day too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stir this around. See if I can put this back over here, because I want to get my mushrooms and some of the cooked spinach up to the top, because as you cook, you know that it's going to turn a different color. So I'm going to try to get it all worked around. And then what you're going to do is add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. I'm going to get it mixed around pretty good before I add my salt and pepper, because I do want to have some of that garlic, onion, and mushrooms mixed in with the spinach. All right, we'll add just a little bit of the lemon juice, and really you just want a little flavor, so you don't want to add a lot. So I'm just going to take it and kind of squeeze it around, and that's probably going to be about what I'm going to need for my 1/4 of a cup or 1/4 of a teaspoon. So that should be good. I'm going to add a little bit of sea salt and a little bit of pepper. All right. And then I'm going to stir it around just a little bit more. And this is pretty much ready for me to load some tacos up for Frank and I to eat on. And this does not have cheese, but if you're looking for a way to add cheese, you can. And I would suggest maybe some Parmesan cheese just to kind of grate on top. But this is going to be what I say, a low-fat taco that you're going to be eating. So this is about what I'm looking for. And so I'm gonna leave this on the burner, kind of keeping it warm, and we come back, Frank and I will be trying these spinach tacos. See you back in just a little bit on Garden of Lights. Welcome back to Garden of Lights. Frank, we have spinach tacos.
All right.
And I am so ready to eat one. So what I did is I've heated up us a corn tortilla, and you can do these in the microwave or you can do them like I've done them. And what we do is you take a little wet paper towel and you can just put it in between them, and it keeps them moist, but it's also going to keep them hot. So I'm going to leave that like that, and this thing is hot. I don't know about yours, but notice how good, and they're going to flip over. All right, so I'll try and do it first, and you can just follow suit. And if you don't want to use the tongs, you are welcome to use the spoon. So I have both, but I'm going to get a little bit of both. Now, after you get your taco built, you have to add a little bit of salsa, and I will let you put your own salsa on. So do you want me to build yours, or you want to trade out with me?
I'll trade out with you.
All right, I figured that.
You just go for that.
All right, you can just fold it over and start eating. And you have a fork, so if it makes a little mess, you got to get all the bites out of it.
All right. Let's see, I think you're supposed to fold it in.
Well, you're making a burrito, so a taco, usually you just turn it over like so, and that's more like your taco, and I'm going to smush it down a little bit. So you eat it like you want to, because I have a feeling you think you're going to make a mess. And it is going to be juicy, because I just put that sauce on, so I'm going to have to bring my plate up myself.
It's good?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody needs to eat their spinach.
They do. Oh, that is really good. The spinach is very tender, and the onions are not overpowering in it. That's good. The sauce is what's making all that good juice, but that's okay. I love sauce on stuff anyway.
Yep, this will work.
That is good. You got to check out the website for this recipe. You're going to love it. And Frank and I will see you next time on Garden of Lights.